WNST, Towson, Baltimore. I think any Baltimorean would want ideally, but, someone has to play in the Super Bowl, and when you're not the team in the Super Bowl, we were 5 years ago, you don't get to select whether it's the Pittsburgh Steelers or the New England Patriots or the Philadelphia Eagles or even the Washington Redskins, but for us, it's the Philadelphia Eagles and the New England Patriots. Luke Jones joins us now. We will be headed to Minnesota 1 week from today. We'll be broadcasting live from the Mall of America, amongst other places. Luke, you got your long johns packed. Those people in Philly are going to be freezing up in Minnesota, right?
Yeah. About the only good thing that people can say about it being in Minnesota is at least they have the beautiful indoor stadium after they were playing outside the last couple years prior to that. But, certainly not surprising to see the New England Patriots in this game. I mean, as much as Jacksonville put up a heck of a fight in the first half, we've seen teams do that in the past. We've seen the 2014 Ravens come to mind. How they took it to the Patriots in the first half and couldn't finish. So that side of the bracket, not exactly a shock seeing the Patriots there. But who would have thought when you and I were in Pittsburgh for that Ravens Sunday night game, watching the Philadelphia Eagles that afternoon, they lose Carson Wentz, and you're thinking,
that's the end.
Their season's over, right? But Nick Foles, lo and behold, he has the best day of any of the four quarterbacks on Sunday. I mean, he was brilliant. I mean, I don't know how he's going to fare against the Patriots. I'm guessing he's not going to put up those kind of numbers, but let's keep in mind that Vikings defense was incredible all year long, and they just shredded them. I mean, it was just really, really impressive. Not a competitive game, to see them score 38 unanswered points, but you have to be impressed by what Nick Foles did. Really have to be impressed by the job Doug Peterson did with anyone who watched that offense the last couple weeks of the regular season. To think that they were going to make it to the Super Bowl. No way. I mean, you were wondering if they were going to be able to win a playoff game. You were wondering if they were going to be competitive in their second-round game.
Underdogs at home in a divisional and a championship game, and won them both outright, and won the championship game by 4 touchdowns. So that'll never happen again, right? That we'll have an underdog in the division, other than if your quarterback goes down in week 15, I guess, right?
Yeah,
the Patriots wouldn't have been underdogs, though, right? The Steelers probably wouldn't have been underdogs with their backup quarterbacks, given the competition they had.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to say. I mean if that's if Tom Brady's not in there and the Steelers had been rolling into town, maybe that'd be a little bit different in that scenario. But
Brady moved the spread 2 points against Jacksonville this weekend, right?
Yeah,
I mean, his hand moved the spread 2 points.
Handgate with the glove, and people analyzing how he was carrying his bag into the stadium, everything.
And they didn't cover, by the way, just so you know.
It was competitive. I mean, Jacksonville, we talk about this all the time. When you go into Foxborough, you got to score into the 20s. 20 points isn't going to hack it. And I said it as I was watching it, with some family members on Sunday afternoon. When Jacksonville kicks the field goal, Lambeau hits the 54-yarder. I said that's well and good, but kicking field goals in the second half against the Patriots is a formula to get beat, and that's what ended up happening. But you have to begrudgingly give New England credit. As I said on Twitter, as I posted on my Facebook page, you can hate them, you can call them the dirtiest player in the game. They're Ric Flair. I mean, they're the best, and until someone beats them, it's hard to go against them. So as much as I envisioned a scenario where Jacksonville could go there and give them everything they could handle, well, they did that in the first half, but in the second half, Tom Brady and the Patriots made just enough plays, and Jacksonville really didn't do anything in the second half. So, that was the far more competitive game on Sunday. But everyone's going to be talking about Brady, and on the flip side, I mean, Philadelphia is going to be an underdog once again, as you'd expect. Nick Foles going up against Tom Brady in Super Bowl 52.
Well, I mean, you enter the fourth quarter with a 10-point lead. I mean, I don't know what more. We had a 14-point lead up there 4 years ago, right? Or 3 years ago, 4 years, 3 years ago now. They're all running together. It's been 3 years since we made the playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about the New England thing, but I have a lot to say about Philadelphia at this point because I think this is a fascinating story. I mean, I know it goes back to early in your childhood, but the Hofstadter, Sims thing that happened many, many moons ago, you wonder whether that was ever going to happen again and whether a backup could get there. And I don't think anybody's going to like the Eagles to beat the Patriots out in Minnesota. And I know the spread started 5.5. It'll get worked up, and I think Philadelphia on the afterglow of how they played on Sunday night, there are some reasons to like them, but the Patriots usually don't lose this game, right?
Yeah, unless it's Tom Coughlin and the New York Giants. I mean, that's or
Eli Manning,
or if Seattle runs the football at the 1 yard line. But I think as much as we'll talk about the quarterbacks here, and everyone will ask if Nick Foles can do what he did against Minnesota. I mean, let's face it. I mean, Nick Foles played better than you could have reasonably asked Carson Wentz to play in that situation. I mean, that's how good he was. But I think if there's something I think we're going to be talking about, if you're stating a case for Philadelphia, it's that defensive front. That is a really deep, good defensive line. I mean, they have 7 or 8 guys that they rotate in there that are high-impact kind of guys. I mean, Fletcher Cox is the one that everyone knows, a Pro Bowl defensive tackle. We're familiar with Timmy Jernigan, but just go down the list. I mean, the first pick 6 is caused by Chris Long hitting Case Keenum's, kind of hitting him in the armpit as he threw. So that's going to be the formula. And Jacksonville did a good job of harassing Tom Brady in the first half. We saw what happened when that kind of went away after intermission. So, it's going to be a very similar challenge for Philadelphia. They have to harass Tom Brady. Probably not going to be talking about the hand 2 weeks from now, I would assume. But that clearly impacted him. I mean, he wasn't overly sharp. He made plays when he needed to, but it wasn't one of Tom Brady's best performances.
Yeah, I saw the ball sail on him a couple times in a way that it wouldn't have, and as much as the little black band on his arm, I love that it's black. It almost looks like someone died and they put it over the little lapel or something like that. It was almost death to the competition. But this is 7 in a row for them, and they know the road. And even when they're losing by a dime late in the game, you still would say, well, they have the ability to do that. I don't know when we're ever going to see anything like this again, and I know we'll spend next week out in Minnesota in praise of the Patriots and Belichick and Brady and 41 and what's he doing to stay healthy and the thing I kept thinking when they were getting their ass kicked early in the game was, all I've heard about all week is that McDaniels is taking the Colts job and Patricia's taking the Detroit job, and everybody's going everywhere. That's not normal for Belichick. That's not normal for the Patriots. For him to say to any of those guys, "Yeah, go ahead and take that job." It does feel like the band's about to break up. I mean, I'll say it feels like last world tour of the Who in '81 or something like that, right?
It does, but I'll add to that, Tom Brady's 40 years old.
Well, the band's going to break up at some point.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen sooner rather than later, but didn't we kind of say the same thing in 2014? Didn't we kind of say the same thing last year?
I thought Matt Castle was going to take his job 7 years ago, right?
Yeah, it was Castle.
Because 35's too old to be a quarterback, right? Like that, right?
But we've seen that. I mean, look what happened even with Peyton Manning, who played into very old. He was 38 years old and still playing at a high level, and then he just fell off a cliff. You saw it happen almost overnight with Peyton Manning, but Brady's still going strong. Is he what he was 2 years ago? I don't know, but at the same time, he's still, other than maybe Todd Gurley, the MVP of the league in 2000.
Well, this time 2 years ago, Romo was 14-2 or whatever it was, right? And now he's been in the booth for a year. I mean, it does happen quickly. I mean, unless you're Elway or unless you're Favre and you come back 3 times or whatever. I don't expect Joe Flacco to be playing football at 41. I don't think he does.
No, you can't expect anyone to do it. I mean, what? And I don't expect anyone here in town or anyone outside of New England to truly appreciate it because you want to. They're the Yankees. They're someone that you want to see lose,
and they cheat. Let me point that out. I'm going to continue to point that
that's
out.
Why I've said I've used the Ric Flair comparison for that. I mean, they say what you want about Deflategate and Spygate. To me, was very clear cut. They got busted. You can say all you want about whether other teams
and
do
the tapes got burned too.
They got caught, yes. Right. So, But that said, even with some of the nefarious stuff over the years, what we're seeing is so incredible. Even if this weren't the salary cap era, I mean, this is as impressive as a dynasty as the NFL has seen. In the Super Bowl era, okay, go back to the Packers and some of the.
But this is a level playing field. I mean, it's the one sport where everybody has the same amount of money.
Yeah.
The draft really does disperse the talent. There is no international dirty pool where you can go to Korea or go down to Venezuela and grease somebody to get a kid when they're 15, like baseball, or hockey in Russia or whatever. It's not like that. I mean, it's the fairest system in sports, which is, to my way of thinking, and I'm getting to be an old fart now and thinking about these kinds of things, Luke, I think the reason it's so successful is because it's been the fairest sport for most of your adulthood in regard to distribution of talent. Hell, they're letting Philadelphia go back to the Super Bowl.
Well, and what's funny about that, on the surface I agree with you, but at the same time, New England's kind of...
It's been lopsided, yes. It feels like the Bulls. I would agree with you.
Right. I mean, we always think of parity and all of that, and we have that beyond the top teams, but New England, they go against everything that we would expect with the NFL. And I'll add something else to that. I mean, look at Belichick's coaching tree. I mean, we're talking about McDaniels and Matt Patricia now, but, there have been lots of guys that have come and gone there, and lots of guys that went on to be head coaches elsewhere, and, their tenures have already come to an end. I mean, Josh McDaniels is finally going to get a second chance after a colossal failure, 7-8 years ago? I mean, that was a long time ago.
He couldn't even drink beer back then. I mean, he still looks like he's 24, right?
So that's the other thing here that, I mean, if you think back to the NFL 30 years ago, 40 years ago, I mean, and that's take nothing away from, the Bill Walshes, the Vince Lombardis, but you didn't have the same kind of coaching turnover at that point in time. I mean, coaches that got hired, they actually would get 5 or 6 years before they'd get fired if they were, not successful. In this day and age, when you have good assistants and great assistants like New England has had, you're not going to keep them long. And it's kind of amazing that they've held on to these couple guys as long as they have. But that's just another thing to throw into this argument about why it's so impressive. And look, at the end of the day, New England has a dynasty because they have the greatest head coach in the history of the NFL, or on the short list of 2 or 3. Even if you want to not give them quite as much credit. And Tom Brady, you can love Joe Montana all you want. Obviously, I'm a Baltimore kid. I have all the respect in the world for the legacy of Johnny Unitas, but to see what Brady is still doing at age 40. I mean, that's the reason why they have this dynasty. It's those 2 guys. You can talk all you want about everyone else, and sure, there's other players who. Yeah,
everyone else is a moving part. Teddy Bruschi's long gone, right?
They're all
Willie McGinnis, Rodney Harrison. They're not there anymore.
Right. I mean, there are guys who have come and retired since Tom Brady and Bill Belichick.
And by the way, they're going to the Super Bowl next week, and none of these guys had anything to do with it, right?
Right. So, I mean, it's just it truly is remarkable, and it's something that, as much as you hate the Patriots, as much as you want to see them lose, as much as it's fun to root against them, I mean, I was talking, as I was watching the game on Sunday, I mean, you love to hate them. I mean, there's as much as we like seeing new teams, there's still something there from a rooting interest standpoint of that familiar team that's so good that you want to just see lose. And the couple times you've been able to see them lose over the years, it's been great. It just hasn't happened quite as much as you'd like, I think, if you're anyone outside of New England. But it's hard not to have such an appreciation for what they've been able to do. Even with some of the shady stuff, there's still so much winning.
Some of the shady stuff. Come on.
Well,
I'm going to call them cheaters all next week because it doesn't get brought up enough. I mean, it doesn't.
I'm acknowledging that. That's what I'm saying. But they're still the best. It's like I said. I mean, Ric Flair cheated, but he was still the best. So I mean, it really is remarkable to kind of reflect on this. And again, root against the Patriots all you want. I'm going to be rooting for the Philadelphia Eagles, but at the same time, just take a step back and acknowledge the history that we've watched for going on 2 decades with this regime. What they've been able to do in a sport that is structured to not have anything like this. it truly is remarkable.
He is Luke Jones. He is Baltimore Luke out on Twitter, as well as Luke at WNST.net. All of our WNST programming brought to you by our friends at Freedmont Mortgage. Don't make a 30-year mistake by choosing the wrong lender. You need the right lender. You need Freedmont's education online at Freedmont.com. We're going to be joined by Carl Delmont with some 2018 tips here as we get into the deep heart of winter. And, of course, the Harrisburg Heat lost to the Blast on Saturday night, which disappointed Carl, but he did give props to Kevin Healy. DNL window tinting's been there for 27 years now. I got to change my notes. It says 26, but it's 27. Cars, boats, businesses, they put the shades on the sun. They take the squint away. They're over in Parkville and in White Marsh. Stop by, see Jason, Athena, and the crew over at DNL Window Tinting. Also, shout out to Royal Farms, back with us for our 19th year together. Fried chicken, real fresh, real fast. It's Royal Farms. Make sure you're checking out their app. You're going to be hearing and seeing more of the app from me as I gas up and chicken out at ROFO and the hashtag there. Maybe I'll be singing with Justin Tucker on TV on Thursday night. But big thanks to Frank Schilling and our friends over at Royal Farms. Luke Jones joining us here, and I guess onward and upward here, because we're going to have all next week to talk about both of these teams and cities and individuals and all that stuff. And this might be the first time that you and I are going to rip the setup and go to the Goofy Media Night or go to one of the morning things together, because you and I in that Philadelphia Eagles room, and I know your sister married into an Eagles family. I think every one of us has an Eagles friend or relative or knows someone in Philly, and I'm going to be bringing love from down here. But Torrey Smith, Jimmy Schwartz, Donnell Ellerbe, go down the list here, man. I mean, Andy Weidel and Joe Douglas and Corey Graham, and I know I'm forgetting somebody, but Timmy Jernigan, as you brought up. Right. It really is. There's a lot of purple going on up there, and I think it's not hard to root against the Patriots. And what the hell? Let these people in Philadelphia have fun. They Crisco'd up the polls. They're ready to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, they were certainly ready to celebrate Sunday night.
Who pays for the Crisco? Can you imagine that's your job on Sunday morning? Go ahead and Crisco up the polls, Joe. Okay, we got that. Down at Broad Street and Walnut and Locust. Okay, I'll agree. You can't grease up all the polls, right?
I wouldn't think so. I can't imagine you have enough manpower to do that. But you just said it, though. There are so many Ravens ties here. Look, Ravens fans are going to be rooting against New England anyway. I don't think I can't envision who it would possibly be. Well,
if you're a real American, let's be honest, right?
I'm just saying, if you're a real Ravens fan and don't like the Patriots and don't like the Steelers, it's just that simple. But with Philadelphia, you have to give them a lot of credit. The way that they built a roster around Carson Wentz, and that same roster has really helped Nick Foles. And Nick Foles played exceptionally well, but we talked about that defensive front. Timmy Jernigan's been a big part of that, and on the front office side, the scouting side, Joe Douglas has done, in a short time there after he spent a brief time in Chicago. He's someone that they're already talking about as a future GM. He's already someone that whose name is being thrown out there as a general manager. Not necessarily going to get that job right now, but it's going to be sometime here in the not too distant future. So there are Ravens fingerprints kind of all over that Philadelphia roster. Some Super Bowl 47 heroes. Timmy Jernigan more recently having been traded there this past offseason. So there's lots of reasons to root for the Eagles in this scenario. They're going to be the underdog. There's no doubt about that. No one's going to expect Nick Foles to duplicate what he did. And look, to have a 141.4 passer rating, if he does that against the Patriots, that's going to be one of the all-time great stories in NFL history. But
he might need to do that to beat the Patriots, right?
He might. Certainly you got to score points. And that's what we saw with Jacksonville. Jacksonville moved the ball so well in the first half, and I go back to the end of the first half. They get the delay of game. For whatever reason, they punted the ball instead of taking it down to the 2-minute warning, and from there, everything just kind of went sideways for them. Their offense completely bogged down. The couple drives that they did have, they only kicked field goals. But
and the ever-loving Belichick halftime adjustments, right? Literally.
And you give New England credit; they made some good adjustments. All the pressure that they were getting, that Jacksonville was getting on Brady in the first half, that kind of went away in the second half. But what Jacksonville did in the first half, that's what Philadelphia has to do. You got to be aggressive. You got to use play action. I thought Philadelphia did a nice job with Nick Foles being aggressive with smart, routes. They allowed him to take some shots. There was lots of underneath stuff that was pretty safe that he was able to complete. That's the formula. Certainly your D-line, you got to get after Tom Brady. I mean, it's that simple. So, everything Jacksonville did in the first half, Philadelphia is going to be trying to do that, but you got to sustain it. And, we've seen it. The Ravens are kind of the one exception to the rule. How many times have you seen New England teams have a chance? And let's face it, there haven't been many teams that have been competitive against them in some of these playoff settings, but the ones who are, they did what Jacksonville was able to do in the first half, but you constantly see it, whether it's New England making adjustments or whether it gets in your head a little bit that, hey, we've got a shot against these guys, but the Patriot mystique kind of takes over, and I think teams get tight. I thought Jacksonville's coaching staff got tight. I thought they got tight, certainly offensively. Their defense, wasn't awful, but certainly they had a 10-point lead. They couldn't do it. So we'll see if Philadelphia is able to do that for a full 60 minutes. I mean, I'm skeptical. I'd like to see it happen. I'm not expecting it to happen, but you got to get after Brady, and you have a quarterback who's not established, not someone that you expect to go toe for toe, but at the same time, you can't be conservative. And Jacksonville was way too conservative in the second half. Too many runs, too many inside runs. The perimeter stuff they did really well with in the first half. New England was able to take some of that away, and they went away from that. And you see what happens. And so, can Philadelphia do it for 60 minutes? Probably not. But at the same time, give them credit for what they did, because that was a Vikings team that was really, really good this year. Case Keenum had a heck of a year, and after that opening drive where Minnesota went right down the field, they weren't able to do anything. And you saw that Philadelphia defense that probably wasn't getting enough credit in this whole equation post Carson Wentz, but they came to play, and Nick Foles, for one day anyway, he looked every bit the part of a franchise quarterback on Sunday.
You can find Luke out at Baltimore Luke on Twitter, as well as Luke at WNST.net. Purple Rain 2 getting released, and strangely enough, the Torrey Smith chapter comes along right as Torrey Smith makes his star known and his presence known in Philadelphia as we head out to Minnesota next week. So you'll want to read Purple Rain 2. It's also in our morning newspaper, all brought to you by our friends at Planet Fitness, where it's still $10 a month. No commitment anytime. You can learn more and get in the best shape of your life at Planet of Triumphs, and you can sign up for our newspaper at WNST.net. It delivers digitally at 7 a.m. each and every morning. The BuyAToyota.com Audio Vault is there for you 24 hours a day this week and next week from the Mall of America, where we'll be broadcasting live from Super Bowl 52. We expect number 52, Ray Lewis, to be inducted and nominated, or whatever the word is, next Saturday night, greeted at the hallowed halls of Canton. We're going to be going out in August, taking our bus trip out there. It is on sale now. It's on sale. It's $50 off a person if you buy before next Saturday. Go to WNST.net under the Road Trips tab and click on that when you're up in the BuyAToyota.com Audio Vault as well. We're going to be out in Minnesota, Mall of America, all day, all night, live, NFL Network. I'm wearing my NFL Films shirt out as well with the best guest out there, and all of it will be brought to you by our friends at Royal Farms, joining us, as well as UMBC. They're opening their new building next Saturday, day before the Super Bowl, so we'll want you to know about that as well, opening the building against Vermont, so that'll be a big, big game down there on the 3rd next week down at UMBC. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook right here as our YouTube WNSTV channel also brings us along, so you can watch, you can listen, and of course, in your car at AM 1570. Don't forget any breaking news when the Orioles deal Manny Machado off to the Diamondbacks this week. You're going to get that first on the WNST Tech Service. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. And of course, Dennis will be here on Thursday getting you ready for the Pro Bowl this weekend, right? Yeah, that's what we got, the Pro Bowl this weekend in Orlando. That'll be exciting, I think. Dennis is here 3 until 5. It is the SSV on WNST. And, of course, our tech service getting you that breaking news first. We will be in Minnesota first and last and only because the other team, they don't play Super Bowl week. We buckle up the chin straps on Monday. We'll see you out in Minnesota. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.